I mean, would you normally think that? You would think maybe a wild dog, escaped lion, killer shark. You hear about that yesterday? But a lamb? You go to the hospital emergency room. What happened? I was attacked by a lamb. Now, doesn't that sound strange? To hide them from the wrath of the Lamb. Is it part of God's nature is it to be wrathful? It's his strange act. Yes, the Lamb does have wrath, and there is judgment that is coming. But he's really a sacrifice. He's really peaceful. He's really loving. And but there is a day of wrath. Matter of fact, when you read about the 7 last plagues that are poured out, that is the wrath of God is filled up in those. It is the anger, the fury of God. The judgment of God is poured upon the lost in those vials of wrath. So God does have anger, but it's a pure anger, it's a righteous anger, and it's an anger that grieves his heart. He's not enjoying it. Okay, let's move on here. Destroying personal property. That kind of goes with the section on wrath. Matthew 28. This is also found in Mark chapter 5 and Luke chapter 7. It's the story about the demoniacs, the demoniacs of Gadara. In Luke and Mark, it says there was one demoniac. In Matthew, it says there were 2. There very likely were 2. One was more prominent and did all the talking. The other was sort of in the background. It says, when he came to the other side of the Gadarenes, there met him 2 demon-possessed men coming out of the tombs, exceedingly fierce, so no one could pass that way. And suddenly they cried out, saying, what have we to do with you, Jesus, you Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the time? Now a good way off from them there was a herd of many swine feeding. The Bible tells us there were 2,000 of them in another story. So the demons begged, saying, if you cast us out, permit us to go away into the herd of swine. And he gave them leave. He allowed it. You know, one thing you can learn from this story, why are we reluctant to pray when Jesus will even answer the prayer of demons? Demons ask and get answers. We won't pray. What's wrong with us? Jesus says, ask. Now you might be thinking, Jesus answered the devil's prayer? Not really. Well, in a sense, yeah, but he did it knowing what the final outcome would be. Why did he allow, let me just back up in case you haven't read the whole story. Jesus gave this legion of demons, and I don't know, there could have been up to 2,000, a Roman legion. Some said that there could be up to 70,000 soldiers in a Roman legion. It's sort of a vague number, but it's a whole army. There were a whole army of devils in this man. And when you see the way the man is behaving, it's clear, I mean, he was really pretty far gone. Running around naked, cutting himself with stones, covered with chains, foaming at the mouth, long, dirty, matted hair, naked, breaking the chains, living in the tombs. I mean, the man, he's the epitome of the lost. He is unclean because he's living with the dead. He's unclean because he's surrounded by pigs, and he's unclean because he's got dried blood and wounds on him. And so for the Jew, this man is naked, lost, dead, unclean. Jesus saves him that day. And the legion of demons were totally possessing him. And when Jesus would go out of the man, they said, don't cast us into the abusos. Don't cast us into the nothing, the deep. Let us go at least into the pigs. Devils want to have something to tempt and manipulate. And so he gave them leave. Now, there's at least 2 times in the Bible we know that devils possessed animals. What's the first time? Serpent. This is the second time. There are probably other times. There's one time in the Bible when we're not sure exactly what happened, but 2 she-bears were filled with the devil or something, but the Lord allowed them to be, and they tore 42 boys that were mocking Elisha. So Jesus allows the devils to go into the pigs. Now this is significant because that was someone's personal property. The owners of that property had nothing to do with this demon-possessed man. Why did he allow that? The only time anything died because of Jesus' decision was the fig tree that he cursed and these pigs. So you have to stop and say, that's puzzling behavior. Why did Jesus do that? I've got a couple of ideas I might offer. Oh, let me just finish the story. So Jesus said, go. And when he says go, they've got to go. But he gives them permission to enter the pigs. Now, up on the hillside, not far from the cemetery where the demon-possessed man lives, you could see there's just all these hills are just covered, they're blanketed with 2,000 swine that are rooting around peacefully up there. They're snorting and digging and laying in the sun. All of a sudden, the piggards, shepherds take care of sheep, piggards take care of pigs. The piggards up there observe that the pigs jump to their feet and they look up and their eyes get wild and they start to squeal and they go berserk, and it's like this tornado, this vortex of demons comes out of the man and goes up the hill and settles on these swine, and they start running madly towards the precipice. They just like a sheet of bacon. They all go running off the edge of this precipice and tumbling on the rocks and drowning in the water below. Because pigs can swim. So it must have been the fall and the water that the rocks below that killed them. And the keepers ran off into the city and told everybody what they'd seen. Now the man who was delivered, he's sitting at the feet of Jesus clothed and in his right mind. And they come back and they're no longer interested in the man who had been tormenting their region for years. Now they're more worried about, how much it costs what do you think it did to pork futures? When they lost 2,000 pigs, that hit the economy there. They weren't growing those pigs for pets. Here in America, we were right up here from the church, not too far away, and someone was walking their pig like a dog. Pot-bellied pig. Huge. Thing got big. And I guess they're in the dog family. They're scavengers. The Bible talks about dogs and pigs. But they're unclean. Well, it would make sense that Jesus would let the demons, which are unclean, go into the pigs that are unclean. They go together, don't they? That's one reason. The other reason is the devils thought, if we can make all those pigs run off the cliff, they'll send Jesus away because they won't want to have that that economic setback. Also probably was an environmental impact too. Now, when they asked him to leave, Jesus left. So the devils thought, we got what we wanted. But the story that I'm now telling to you is being read all over the world because 2,000 pig carcasses floated to the surface in a Jewish lake called the Sea of Galilee. They were all over the lake. Everybody there heard the story of how Jesus crossed the ocean to save that one man. And it says when Christ came back, they were waiting for him because of that man's preaching. The other reason I think Jesus allowed it is they were growing those pigs for food. How does Christ feel about that? He'd rather see them lost than eaten. Christ cares more about people than pigs. That's what it means. Jesus said, "Are you not of more value than many sparrows?" And if that's true, it's probably safe to say sparrows are at least clean. They used them as an offering. Pigs are unclean. Are not you of more value than many pigs? Right? Do not give that which is holy to the swine. So he gave what was unholy to the swine. Demons. That's just offering you some ideas on why things happen that way. I'm running out of time. I know I didn't have time to talk about cursing the fig tree. But I want to, in my time that remains, neglecting the persecuted. Matthew chapter 4. We've got in verses 12 and 13. Matter of fact, if someone finds that quick, I'll have you read that. Matthew 4, verse 12 and 13. Hold your hand up. You got that? Go ahead, Andrew.
Now when Jesus had heard that John was cast into prison, he departed unto Galilee. And leaving Nazareth, he came and dwelt in Capernaum, which is upon the sea coast, in the borders of Zebulun and Naphtali.
All right, now think about this for a second. Jesus was related to John. John the Baptist was his cousin. John was the one who Jesus said was the greatest of the prophets. John was the one who went before Christ to prepare the way. They did this great work. John was the one who said, "This is the Lamb of God that takes away the sin of the world." He's imprisoned by Herod, but he's not been really charged with anything. Herodias is just threatened by his preaching because John is telling Herod, "You have no right to marry your brother's divorcee. She's his wife." And that really angers her. So he's in prison. Jesus